Hey, everybody, welcome to another great episode of the show. This is your good buddy Spider. I hope all of the sound quality is still good. I'm still working with the headset. I don't have a separate microphone just yet because I'm testing the way things are going right now. But everything should be clear, everything should be cool. And thank you for listening. We've had unprecedented growth over the last few months, and it's just been fantastic. And I just have to thank everybody involved for all of that. I'm gonna get a drink. I hope the quality stays the same. I'm gonna walk into the kitchen, so I'm gonna be slightly away from the transmitter here while I do that. You're gonna hear some miscellaneous sounds. I've got the headset on my head, of course. We've got a lot to talk about. It's gonna be a big episode. It's gonna be a big episode because a lot of crazy things have happened. And I've made some mistakes. I've done some things that I probably shouldn't have. Not morally or ethically wrong, but just, there's no reason to get involved with certain things that go on the internet. And I broke a long-standing rule of mine, which is don't get involved with other people's drama. And I didn't go too deep with it. I'll get to that in a little bit. Um, this is, of course, episode number 69. And just like episode 67, we are not going to make a joke about it. We're grown ups. We're not kids. We're not going to make the obvious joke. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So, what are we going to talk about, though? First off, I have to say, it's gotten extremely hot here in Ohio. It's been up into 90 degrees Fahrenheit on a couple of days. So, and because the forecast looks like it's going to continue in that direction in the mid to high 80s, I did finally break down and put in the air conditioners. I have an air conditioner downstairs for the downstairs area. I have an air conditioner in the bedroom for the wife because she needs it. It always bothers me, so I end up being layered at bedtime. It's too cold for me, but she needs it, so it's in there. And the one in my daughter's room is hooked up. So everybody is all happy except for me with their air conditioning, and that's fine. I'm taking care of the family. I'm making sure they're comfortable and they're happy at my own expense. And that's fine. That's how things go. I don't mind. I'm not complaining about it. I want to make that clear. I'm not complaining about it. My family deserves to be comfortable, and there are two of them and one of me, so I'm outvoted. And I can deal with it. I'm a tough guy. I'm a tough cookie. I can put up with a little bit of cool weather inside the house. I can just put on a shirt. Well, it's I say that as if I don't wear a shirt normally. I always wear a shirt. I don't walk around the house shirtless like Danzig, just like, hey. Anyway, I'm not going to do that because that's probably going to get me copyright stricken from Cartoon Network. Anyway, if you know, you know. But I could just put on a sweater or an overshirt or something. That's fine. As long as my family is comfortable, I'm okay. I feel good about it. But what else? What else do we have to talk about? The kittens. The kittens in the backyard. I don't know if I discussed them too much the last few episodes. I trapped humanely, of course, carefully, not in a mean way, but I collected and I trapped the kittens and their mother from the backyard. And they are now on their way to being adopted into loving homes. The details. Let's go into the details, just in case for people who wonder. I have a sister who does foster care for cats and kittens. She works with a local shelter in a nearby town. And I trust her more than I trust some of the local rescues. Some of the local rescues, like the Humane Society, they'll say, oh, well, there's too many cats on the street, there's too much going on, so we're just going to neuter them and then put them right back out on the street. And then what kind of a life is that? Or they'll be like, oh, well, they have this kind of just, they have a cold, so we're going to do the unthinkable because we don't want anybody else to get sick. And you know what? I get it, but I wouldn't, I don't condone it. I think the cats and kittens deserve to live. So I reached out to her, and she was able to work with her local shelter and get things taken care of. I caught the family, the cat family. I think this is pretty ingenious. I'm still pretty stoked that it worked. I am still pretty stoked that it worked. Let me walk you through my process here. It had been relatively nice warm weather, and then it got to a point where we were going to have a string of severe weather, like storms and rain and a lot of just messiness. And I didn't want the kittens outside. I'd been feeding them. I'd been feeding them and their mother and trying to get them used to me. One of them was okay to be pet and to be picked up, but the other two kittens were like, nah, we ain't gonna let you touch us. They were skittish, even though the mom was friendly with me. So, but I didn't want them to get sick. I didn't want them to get sick from the change in the weather. So I contacted my sister and said, "Hey, we've got these kittens. I'm going to try to catch them. Can you take them?" She said, "Yeah, we can work that out. You just have to be able to catch them by a certain day, which was very soon." I said, "Okay, I think I can manage that." So what I did was I set up. We have a medium-sized. I call it a dog crate, but it's not really an enclosed crate. It's like a little cage that you would put. And I hesitate to say you would put your dog in, but it's for like training and things. You put them in if they're not yet potty trained and things like that. It's for when they're puppies and whatnot. Well, we have a little dog cage that's largish for a small cat. And I had the idea. I put it outside with a nice clean towel that was comfy, and I tied a string to the door. This is some Wile E. Coyote Acme rigged up business, okay? I tied a string to the door and fed it through the back of the cage long enough that I could stand several feet back and wait for something to go in, and then I could yank the string to close the door and then hold it shut while I walked up to actually do the latch so they couldn't escape. Okay? And I did that for 2 days. I put food in there to try to entice them, and I put little toys and things in there to entice them. And finally, at 10:30 p.m., the night before there was going to be the bad weather, I managed to get them all in there at once, and I caught them. It was a stroke of genius. If you've ever seen the Jeremy Clarkson Top Gear meme where he says, "Sometimes my genius," it's absolutely frightening. That was how I felt. That was how I felt. But I caught them and I brought them into the house in the cage because they can't interact with the rest of my cat population. I don't know if they've been in contact with different viruses or different things. They have to get checked. They have to go to the vet, whatever, right? So I contacted my sister and we got everything arranged, and we managed to get one of the kittens to a coworker of my wife's who already has some cats, and so he took one of the kittens, who was honestly the sweetest. He's absolutely a great kitten. He loves everybody. He was the only one that would let me pet him and touch him and pick him up. And we gave him to the coworker so that he can head to his pet menagerie, and he's settling in nicely. He's a great little kitten. The other two and the mama we shipped off to my sister. She came to pick them up and get them checked out. They're all getting spayed and neutered and all that other kind of stuff. They're getting checked out at the vets, and they're all going to get nice, good homes. They're going to get adopted. They're going to get homes. They're going to live the best lives ever, and I feel fantastic about it. I'm glad my plan worked to catch them. I'm glad they didn't have to sit through the rain, and I'm glad that they're going to have happy lives from here on out. So that's a good, nice beginning to this episode. I'm happy about it. I'm very pleased with how it all turned out. As much as I would have loved to be like, oh yeah, they can all live here because I love kittens, we have enough cats. We can't just take every single animal that needs something from outside. We can't do that. It's not that big of a house. I don't have unlimited resources for food and for litter and whatnot, so we had to make sure that they had good homes. So we made sure that they've got good homes now. They're going to get adopted. They're going to live their best lives. Other things that have gone on. Let's get into some other things that have happened. The wife's been sick. She came down with the way that the weather is changing. She's got asthma, and so occasionally with different ways of the air. I know that's awkward sounding. Ways of the air, but different particulates and different air quality things. It bothers her lungs, and she has trouble on certain days. A lot of things have happened recently with the air quality, and she's basically got a mild infection. She's fine. She'll be okay, but she's going through it right now. So we've got that going on. Hopefully, nothing spreads to the rest of us in the family because I don't really want to be sick. I don't want to be sick, but she's pretty miserable right now. She's been having early bedtimes, and hopefully she improves in the near future. I'm not worried about her. I'll say that. When I say hopefully, I'm not like, oh no, I'm worried. Yeah, anytime now. Anyway, that was my daughter got up to go use the bathroom. This is probably the second, third time tonight. I know it's hot and you go through fluids faster, but sometimes I think she just wants to listen to what I'm talking about, which is fine. But I got a show to do. I got things to do here. What was I talking about? Wife's been sick. Kittens are taken care of. Let's move on to the meat of the episode. I hadn't intended for this to be yet another local wildlife episode. And when I talk about local wildlife in this context, I'm talking about local folks in my town who cause issues. But let's talk. I had an encounter. I actually had an encounter with the local wildlife. And you know what? I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have even bothered engaging. I broke a rule that I have for myself, which is do not engage, do not get involved with this kind of stuff, don't get involved with politics, don't, all this kind of stuff. But I thought, let me explain how everything went. Okay. So the local wildlife, they have a page where they congregate on Facebook and they air their grievances with each other and they make videos and all this kind of stuff, right? Now recently, and I can't say off of completely, I can't say completely that they are wrong in this aspect. I suspect they are. I believe they are. But I cannot 100% say that they're wrong. So, take all of this as you will. They post a lot of things. Sometimes they'll just post rants, they'll post their videos, they'll post the complaints, they'll post what they see as evidence of corruption in the local town. And sometimes it's like, okay, whatever, not a big deal. And other times it's like, I think you're stretching. They collect so many things, so much video and so much text that they believe all of it, regardless of how much of it might be true. And I'm not here to debate whether any or all of it or none of it is true. I'm not here to debate that. But recently they made a post because I watch what they're doing, mostly for my own entertainment, not because I really care too much about what they're up to, but mostly for my entertainment. But they made a post that was multiple screenshots where apparently they believe someone with a profile and the name of the local city council president was engaging them in an online argument, basically bullying them and challenging them to a fight. I'm not going to use any names because, again, I'm not here to embarrass anybody or to put anybody on the spot or to shame anybody. I don't do that on this show. Unless you live in Tacoma and you've been a jerk to me, which, then you get what you get. But take that, lawyers. Anyway, but I don't make a policy of naming and shaming people because I don't think that's fair. Regardless of what I might think about a person, it's not fair of me to put their name out there for other people to make fun of or to laugh at or to support or to whatever. It's not my business. So they made a post showing screenshots of what they believe is the city council president challenging them to fights and all this kind of stuff. And judging by the way the posts were made and the language used and the syntax, I don't believe that the person posing as the city council president, I don't believe it's a real profile. I think it's a fake profile created with the sole purpose of trolling this group, this local wildlife group. Okay? I think it's expressly designed to make them angry and make them say things that'll get them into trouble. Now, whether that's something that's condoned by the actual city council or just some random nobody who's just having some fun, I don't know, and I don't care. But that's what I believe. I believe it's fake. So I made a mistake. I made the mistake of commenting on the post and saying, you guys know that this is fake, right? Because, again, I believe it's fake. I haven't changed my mind. I believe it's fake. I said, it's fake, right? They're trying to rage bait you. Don't fall for it. They're just trolling you. Not that I honestly care too much about what these people are up to because they're loud and they're obnoxious and they cut themselves off at the knees constantly. But regardless, at this point I felt almost an ethical. I had this weird feeling that I should say something. So I did. And within minutes, I regret my choices because, of course, the response was obviously it's real. You're just whatever. And let me see if I can pull up some actual language of what they said to me. I'm not going to read an entire quote because, again, I don't want people to look it up and to make a big deal out of it and to be like, ooh. Um, but they said it was without a doubt the person that they said they were. And they said that I was using, quote, lying ass rhetoric trying to discredit the truth when they have the receipts saying otherwise. Tell this knucklehead, meaning me, about it. And I was like, okay, I guess I should have expected that because this is how these people operate. This is why the local wildlife is not taken seriously. They don't, even if you do have evidence of something, instead of being like, okay, well, let me show you what this is, and maybe I'll change your mind, they go on the attack. They 100% go after you, and they try to tear you apart for daring, for having the gall, the audacity to counter anything that they have to say. Obviously, you're a plant. You're the enemy. You're some piece of trash, and they know who you are because you're obviously representing the bad guys, and etc. etc. And this went on for a few minutes. I told him, hey, you know what? I think you're being trolled. I think it's not real. I think somebody's just trying to get you mad. And they continued and they attacked my character. My they attacked my ability as a father to take care of my kid. And I was cool through all of it. I didn't insult them. I didn't argue. I just defended myself. I was like, hey, you know what? I take great care of my daughter. She's going to be an amazing person. And I don't, whatever your guys' issue is, that's not, has nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to point out that somebody's trying to take advantage of you. I'm trying to help. And they didn't at all look at any of that. They just completely bypassed that and they said, you know what, you're just a plant, you're just this. Obviously, you don't stand with us on any rights and you're against us on this. And at that point, I checked out. I should never have engaged with them to begin with because this is how they operate. They will take every single thing that you say and they will attempt to twist it into something that they can then use to shout at you about. Like the one of the guys came in, he was like, "Hey, we're standing for the rights of parents and this and that. Are you saying you don't stand for the rights of parents?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have any issue in this fight. I don't have a dog in this fight. I've never had my kids taken away because of anything, whether fraudulently or because I was accused of being a bad parent. My daughter has had a great life from the moment she was born up until now, as far as I can give her. And so I don't have a reason to be involved in whatever fight you're having." And they took that and said, "Oh, so you're not against this and you're not against this? And you need to stop talking." And I was like, whatever. I was almost, because these are the same people that'll go out and say like, we're First Amendment rights and we can say whatever. But the moment you try to do any sort of, not even an argument against them, but any sort of dialogue with them that they don't like, you should stop talking. right? Your First Amendment rights, quote unquote, don't matter. Regardless of the fact that none of it really evolves around the First Amendment, because that's dealing with government cracking down on your speech. It doesn't involve other people taking issue with things you say. It only has things to do with the government cracking down. And in that issue, I am 100% for First Amendment rights. I'm 100% for being able to say whatever you want to say. But at the same time, if you say something that's shitty to a person who thinks it's shitty, they can turn around and be like, I think that's shitty. I don't think you should say that. And sure, you can say it, but it's not going to protect you if they decide to haul off and punch you in the face. Your First Amendment rights don't matter for shit if somebody turns around and says, you said something that really pissed me off. I'm going to beat your ass. Whether they're right or wrong in beating your ass is an entirely different argument. It depends on what you said. So that's got nothing to do with the government and the First Amendment. Okay? So if you say something that's super offensive and somebody else says, you know what, I don't like what you said, I think you're a piece of shit, and you continue with your offensive language and then they fight you and beat you, that's got nothing to do with them affecting your First Amendment rights. That's you saying some shitty things and getting your ass beat for it. If you say racist things out in the middle of a neighborhood where there might be minorities or whatever that the racism is about, they're going to beat the crap out of you. And then you're going to turn around afterwards and say they violated my freedom of speech. No, they didn't. They just gave you the consequences of what you said. But that's how these people operate. They don't understand what these rights mean. They don't understand what any of this is supposed to be. They think it just gives them a blanket ability to say whatever they want, to do whatever they want. And if you have anything at all that contradicts anything from what they're saying, obviously you're a bad person. You're working for the other side. I got called a bootlicker. Me. I got called a bootlicker. Like I am the least like government person that you all know. There's no way you can come at me and call me a bootlicker in that kind of a context. There's no way. There's no way. But that's what these people do. They don't care about reality. They don't care about facts. They just collect their evidence, quote unquote. And you know what? Who knows? They may have evidence. Looping it back around to the original topic here. They may have evidence that this profile that I believe is fake, they may have evidence that it's a real profile, but they didn't post any of that. They didn't say, "Hey, you know what? We know this is a real profile. Let's dialogue with you and let's show you." They just attacked me. They just attacked me for it. And I didn't insult them. I didn't use any poor language. I didn't swear at them. I didn't do anything like that. You know, but that was my mistake. Engaging with them on a level where I thought I was going to be able to help them out. Obviously, they don't want help. Obviously, they don't need help. They're going to sink their entire ship by themselves. And more power to them for that. More power to them for that. You guys go ahead, sink your own ship, cut yourself off at the knees. Because this is the problem with them. They label themselves as advocates, and we're helping change the legal system, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, but the language that they use is threatening. And the words that they use are threatening. And they believe because of the First Amendment that that's fine. that nobody's allowed to take offense at that, that nobody's allowed to retaliate because of that, that nobody, if you have an issue, then you're the problem. And that's kind of a thing that's happened to me a lot of times in life. You try to present a logical, like, hey, this is this and this is this, and people are just, they let their emotional whatever come out, and you're the bad guy, and everything you say is wrong. And if you disagree with them, then obviously you're the enemy. And that's an issue. It's not such an issue that I honestly don't care beyond. I'm talking to you folks about it. This is my venting. This is my getting at it out into the open. I'm not going to comment on anything else that they do. It's I say it's no longer worth my time, but it wasn't really worth my time the first time, and I shouldn't have done it. I should have just let them do whatever they do. They're going to get scammed. They're going to get trolled by fake profiles and fake people because they don't pay attention. All of their evidence and their screenshots and whatever, and they don't know what to do with any of it. And that's why they're stuck in court cases and they're losing. That's why they're stuck. And the main guy who runs the page here, okay, who yelled at me, who said the lying ass rhetoric remark. He has a court case. He's the one who was trespassed from City Hall, right, from the city council meeting. He doesn't live in the city. He lives from a neighboring city, and he comes to just shout and yell and raise his concerns. And they said, you can't do that. You have to leave. And he attempted to re-enter, and so they arrested him for trespassing. And his court case is going through the system right now. He tried to bypass his own lawyer to get the case dismissed because they were going to hire him a public defender because he apparently doesn't have the money, which is fair. I don't have money, so whatever. I'm not going to down him for that. But apparently the public defender's office, it would have been a conflict of interest because his issue was against the city and the public defender works for the city. So they contacted a separate lawyer and they said, here, can you represent this guy? And he agreed. And so, but he tried to work around his lawyer to get the case dismissed. And they said, no, you can't do that. You have a lawyer. Unless you want to completely fire your lawyer, which we assigned to you, then you have to work through that. And he demanded, through his lawyer, a jury trial. But he said that they are demanding the jury trial, which is not true. According to the evidence in the court docket, it's his side that has demanded the jury trial. But he's telling everybody else that, oh no, they want it to go to the jury. He wanted it to go to the jury so he can present his case to a bunch of people who he thinks is going to be sympathetic to him. And maybe they will, and maybe he'll win. I'm not going to say one way or another. The jury trial is not until September. So, but he's playing games. He's playing games to try to work around the system, and that's what got him into trouble to begin with. And he doesn't seem to get it. And he attacks me for pointing out that, you know what, you're being trolled by a fake profile. And who knows, maybe it is a real profile. Maybe the city council president is indeed such an idiot that he would get on Facebook to argue with people. Maybe he is. I don't know. I don't believe so. But it could be true, and I could be wrong. And if that's the case, that's a really ridiculous, sad state of affairs. If it comes out that that actually happened, that the city council president is indeed a jackass who's getting on Facebook to to argue with people and to call them out. Sir, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you? You should have your social media taken away. Come on. But I don't believe that. I believe it's a troll. I believe it's a troll. If I'm proven wrong, I will sincerely hang my head in utter disbelief that the local city council can be that stupid. I'm gonna take a drink about it because it's just the idea of it. The idea, the idea just seems so. And on the face of it, I'll tell you, it'll it will annoy me and disappoint me, but on the same token, it will not surprise me because I've had my issues with the Hall of Fame. Remember, like this town, we have the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they make a lot of decisions regarding that are detrimental to the people that live here. And I've had a lot of problems with that. So I can see how the city council can be at fault for all this, but I would like to hope that they are not so stupid that they would sink to arguing with this man who is not even from this town about various things online and pick fights with him to give him a reason to have these court cases. Like, you have to know. You have to have your own lawyers who are telling you don't do this. Unless you just think, I'm the leader of the city, I can say whatever I want, in which case you're a friggin' idiot. You should be concerned with dealing with the city's business, not dealing with some rando who's complaining to you about things, calling you out. You should be made of sterner stuff than that. Come on. Come on. Don't sink to that level. Don't sink to the level of the people who say, we're advocates and whatever, but we're going to talk this poor language and we're going to threaten and we're going to do this. Don't sink to that level. You should be above that. And if it turns out that I'm wrong and that the city council is really doing this, I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm just going to be kind of like, why? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why would these people act like this? Oh goodness. Let's move on. We've had a good amount of time to talk about this. We've given the local wildlife their their time in the sun. We have given them their time. Let's talk about Destiny, not the concept, the game, Destiny. More about Destiny 2, I suppose. Give me a second. Get out of here. What are you doing? Huh? Cats are being bad tonight, by the way. The cats are being bad. Anyway, let's talk about Destiny 2. Today, I mean, by the time you hear this episode, it's going to be June 10th. But as I'm recording this, it's June 9th of 2026. And Destiny 2 has reached the end of its life. Destiny 2 is no longer going to be supported with content updates or anything beyond basic maintenance. It is a live service game, which means it's always online, which means you always play with other people and there's usually updates and things like that. But the company Bungie has decided that the game is done for, and today was the last day. Today was it. The final content drop before it's all over. And apparently they had almost 2 million players for the end, which is fascinating because for months, possibly years, they have not had that many players. Many people had given up on the game because of bad decisions by the game studio known as Bungie. Bungie, of course, were the people who created Halo, which was a huge Microsoft Xbox console phenomenon back in the day. Halo is still ongoing, but beyond the first 4 Halo games, which is Halo 1, 2, and 3, and Halo Reach, a prequel. After that, Bungie went solo. They went off to make other games. They went to make Destiny, the first of that franchise. And people glorify Bungie as this godlike tier of epic game developer because of Halo. And despite all the like that I have for Halo, it has its problems. More and more over the years, Bungie leaned into multiplayer, player versus player, sort of competitive gameplay. And with Destiny, they leaned into that very heavily. The Destiny PvP aspect was a huge part of that game, which I mostly ignored because I don't like playing against other players. I don't like being competitive. I have an issue where I don't like to lose, and I know this about myself, and I get too competitive. And if I do lose against other players, I get irrationally upset about it, irrationally angry. I'm better now than I used to be. When I was younger, it was a serious issue. But nowadays, I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, and I just won't play that kind of content because I know that about myself. It's a character flaw. I get it. I 100% get it about myself. But that's where Bungie's loyalties lie. They lied with the player versus player crowd. And so Destiny 1 had its ups and downs. It started out okay, then it went kind of eh, then it got better, then it went kind of eh again, and then it got better, and then it was over. Because they said, well, we've done everything we can do with Destiny as a game. We're going to start development on Destiny 2, an entirely separate game that you have to pay for separately. And because of all of the issues and the way that they blatantly kind of played with the truth in the first game, in the development part, I swore off playing the second one. I said, you know what, I'm not going to play Destiny 2. A lot of the people that I know who played 1 with me on the few times I played with multiplayer, they moved on to Destiny 2, but I did not. And Destiny 2 continued to be plagued with administrative problems. Content got cut and put away so you couldn't play it anymore, and the DLC was $60 a piece, and there's now like 8 DLC pieces. And it all led to Bungie eventually got acquired by Sony, and Sony laid off vital members of the team and gutted it. So it's basically a skeleton of itself. And told them, hey, you need to make us some money. And Bungie did not deliver. They did not make that money. And it came to the point now where Bungie has another game out. They revived the game that came out before Halo. Before Halo, they had Marathon Durandal, which was a PC game from way back in the 90s. It was a single player game, first person shooter. And they've revived that franchise as a group activity shooter where you group up, and then there's also rogue groups of people that come and attack you and whatever, and it's all complicated. It's nothing like what it used to be. And they've shut down Destiny 2 in favor of Marathon. And Marathon's player count has always been lower than Destiny 2's. It's not doing well. And so today was the day when Destiny was going to get its last update. And everyone wanted to slam the Destiny server to be like, let's show them how many people love this game. And they had a huge amount of players. But it's all going to trickle away. Because it's too little too late. It is too little too late. Bungie, as a game developer, made so many promises and then broke those promises. And then they laid off or fired or in some ways lost various members of their team. The current team at Bungie is nowhere near who they used to be. Nobody at Bungie right now, I believe, is part of the original Bungie team that made Halo. Not a single person. And they don't understand what made those games popular. They don't understand what made those games appealing. They don't even understand what made the first Destiny an interesting concept before they messed with it. So there's people not only asking for Destiny 2 to continue to get more updates, but they wanted Destiny 3. We want Destiny 3. We want to continue the story in an entirely new game. We'll buy a whole new game. Why do you keep giving these people your money? They have let you down. They have let you down over and over and over again. They threw the first game to the side to make the second game. And the second game, they continually locked content away so you couldn't play it anymore. They rotated things in and out so that it wasn't the same game on any given day. They made many, many, many decisions that were not appealing. And now they're shutting down continued support for the game in favor of a completely different franchise. What makes you think you trust them to even make a third game? Why would you trust them to make another game in this series after all the ways that they've jerked you around and taken your money and failed to deliver on their various promises? Bungie is not who they were. And even who they were was not that great to begin with. Bungie was such an immature company to begin with. Like the Halo stuff, they encouraged the teabagging and the whatnot in Halo multiplayer. They encouraged that kind of antagonistic behavior because they were childish, they were immature, and they identified with that part of the fan base that was that same outlook, that was immature, and they continued to build content and games around that segment of people. And that's where everything went wrong. They didn't make games for serious game players. They made games for adult kids who didn't grow up past fart jokes, who didn't grow up past your mom in chat. That's what Bungie became. and you still trust them to make a third game from a failed franchise? Come on. Come on. They had a petition. They went to change.org and they made a petition to petition Sony to continue the game series. And it's got up to like 400,000 signatures. But you know how many people are in the world? Billions. 400,000 is nothing. Is absolutely nothing on a petition for a single game. But they're still going. They're still dedicated. And other people from other game studios, from the people who made Warframe and the people who made Helldivers, they're like, oh yeah, we think you should continue the game. Okay, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Destiny is dead. Destiny as a game franchise is dead. The games may continue on as far as the server is concerned, and you can still play them. But as for the continuing story of the franchise, it's dead, it's done, there's nothing else to be said. And I cannot grieve its passing. After all of the issues and the roller coaster ride it was in the first Destiny game to play that. And I enjoyed what I enjoyed from that game. There are plenty of things that I like about it, and there's a lot of things I don't. But everything from the beginning of the franchise till now, Bungie as a company is not who they were. They cannot be trusted to make a solid game anymore. They cannot be trusted with player um, player faith and feedback anymore. Bungie is a hollow shell. And if you still believe they're capable of making good games, I have a bridge in San Francisco to sell you. I have bridges in California and New York to sell you. For some beads and some brightly colored shells. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of our time. We've covered a lot of ground. We had to talk about the local wildlife. We had to talk about Destiny stuff. And once again, I appreciate everybody who tunes in. We've had a lot of interest lately, a lot of new listeners. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me with your entertainment needs. Thank you for being part of the Uncanny Media umbrella. Just thank you. I appreciate you. I really do. And as much as I might complain about things, everything is great. My life is fantastic. Like, I feel good. I complain about things, but I'm not obsessed with it. I'm not letting it bring me down. I'm not sitting in a basement typing up a strongly worded email to the editor of The Guardian. I'm not doing that. All of these issues, I'm sure I will move on from. The Destiny saga will be over within another week or two, now that everything's finished. The local wildlife I will probably continue to comment on just because that's entertaining, and they continue to just bury themselves. They continue to dig holes and to make things worse for themselves, and I'm interested to see how that ends. I don't have a particular stake in their issues, but I am interested to see how their story ends, and I'll keep you updated on that. Until then, of course, I think I'm finished. That's all I have. I have yet, I forgot once again to upload the end theme. Oh my gosh. So you're not going to get a closing theme. You're just going to have me talking and then abruptly it's over. And I apologize for that. I I let the week with the kittens and everything completely get away with me. Next week we will have the proper close. Next week we will have the closing theme like we should, as we do with everything uncanny related. I promise you that. I usually don't make promises, but this case I will. But that's it. Until then, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Uncanny Media, the show. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.